good morning. On behalf of the Student Council and Peer Leadership Council, I would like to welcome you to the 2021 Elgin Park Virtual Career Webinar. And today I'm speaking on the traditional and unceded territory of the Katsi, Semiahmoo, and Coast Salish peoples. To begin, my name is Rachel and I'll be your coordinator for this session. We also have our wonderful PLC and Stuco volunteers here as chat moderators and note takers. And now I'll be passing the mic to our student interviewer, Paula, who will introduce our honored speaker today.
Thank you, Rachel. Hi, everyone. I'm Paula, and I will be your interviewer for today's session. And everyone, I'd like to present our speaker for today, Mr. Eric Sugawara. So Eric grew up in South Surrey, graduating from Semiahmoo Secondary. He was a BC rugby national champion and eventually started competing in CrossFit. He worked as an electrician for 8 years and as an electrical estimator for 6 years before becoming a CrossFit trainer and the head coach at Semiahmoo Athletic Club. Like I'm sure everyone else is, I am so thrilled to have Mr. Sugawara here today to speak about his journey and career as an electrician, rugby player, coach, and CrossFit instructor. So please join me in virtually welcoming Mr. Eric Sugawara. So Eric, do you want to start off by giving us a bit of your background?
Yep, no problem. So as you said, I graduated from Semiahmoo Secondary in 2005. I played soccer and rugby growing up pretty much my entire life. For rugby, I kind of chose a rugby direction once I was in high school. And I tried out and made the 2003 U16 BC team. And we went on to nationals that year and won nationals. And that kind of hooked me onto rugby. Instead, I put soccer to the side at that point. But growing up, I was very competitive in all sports. Throughout high school, as a player at Semiahmoo, we actually finished 4th and 5th as a senior in the province at the AAA level. And then in my grade 12 year, I made the BC team again, and we won another national title. And so coming out of high school, though, I didn't really have an idea of what I wanted to do for work. All I really knew is I wanted to continue playing rugby. And so I also played on our local club team, Bayside Rugby. So I continued to play for them after I graduated. And at the same time, though, as most parents are, it was either go to school or get a job. And I got lucky enough that a friend of mine, his father offered me a job as electrician apprentice coming out of high school. So I started an electrical apprenticeship. I figured it was a good way to just sort of learn some skills and start working and making some money. But at the same time, I was focused on playing rugby. And so I played on the premier level Bayside team for 7 years. After that, I did end up having to retire due to injuries, which I might get into a little bit in the end, and at the same time worked on my apprenticeship as an electrician. As it took me about 4 or 5 years to get my red seal for my electrician. And then in 2013, I took a position inside the office, as at that time I wanted to continue my rugby career, but it was getting to the point where I was getting injured enough that I needed to take a desk job so I didn't have to miss work. And so inevitably, though, funny, a year later, I ended up retiring from rugby anyways, but I kept my desk job and worked my way up to a senior estimator in the company I worked for. And then after I retired from rugby, I was kind of just looking for a competitive outlet of some point and just something to get in shape. And that's when I started CrossFit in about 2015. And so it was a great exercise program that I really enjoyed, lifting weights, and there's a competitive side to CrossFit as well, where you can go into competitions and who does workouts faster, who lifts more weights. And so I really enjoyed the competitive aspect of that after retiring from sports, where I didn't have to run into anybody or get hit by anybody. So it was a lot less impact on the body. And then, after a few years of that, I started coaching part-time, just in the morning. At first, it was just to get a free membership to the gym, but I ended up enjoying coaching much more than actually going to my day job. And then about a year later, they had the opportunity to take a full-time position at the gym as the head coach and manager. And after whatever that was, 13 years in the electrical field, I said, well, I might as well give it a try since this is what I want to do. So I switched careers 180 completely, and so far I'm loving it. Every day is great. 2 years later, still loving it. So that's where I am today.
Thanks for sharing. I'm sure it's great now that you have a job that you love. So what drew you to the career of being a fitness instructor?
Sorry, you kind of cut out a little bit. Can you say that again?
Yeah. So what draws you to being a fitness instructor?
I just enjoy seeing people like move and get fitter and healthier. And so it's a great experience when you get people that come into the gym and they're like, especially during COVID times, like, well, I put on the extra 10 pounds over the past year, or 20 pounds, and I need to lose some weight, or they're type 1 diabetic to a point, and you watch them lose 40 pounds as they get in shape and they get healthier. And that's really my goal, is to make people healthier so they can live longer lives and not have issues with all these other diseases that you might need medicine and stuff like that down the road. And even just the small accomplishments of somebody getting their first pull-up or their deadlifting body weight or something like that is awesome to see, that people are showing progress and getting fitter at the same time.
Yeah, so you like the aspect of like helping people?
Yeah. So as long as and it's not just a CrossFit thing. Like if somebody wants to go do F45 or go for runs, and in general, seeing people healthier and living a longer life is my major driver right now.
That's great to hear. So what are the hard and soft skills required for a fitness instructor?
So for a fitness instructor, the only real hard skill is you need a certification of some point, and that's mainly for insurance purposes. So essentially every gym or every business, if you own your own business, you need to have insurance of some sort, and they require you to have some sort of certification. So for the gym that I work at, we are a CrossFit gym as well. So I have my CrossFit level 1 trainers, and I'm looking this summer to upgrade that to a level 2. And so you do need some sort of certification before you can start working on your own. You could work at somebody else's gym that has certifications, but it's always going to help you to get more educated and more knowledgeable about what you're doing. Soft skills, you need to be somewhat of a people person. And I'll be the first to admit, I was an introvert a lot. Like I sat at a desk for 8 years at my other job, and I had one person I kind of talked to every day. But other than that, I didn't enjoy going out and networking. So I'm not the type of person that enjoys small talk, but that's something I worked on a lot at my desk job, because that was a necessity for finding new jobs and creating like relationships with other clients. And so I kind of transferred that skill over to working with people here at the gym. So every day in every class, I try to get around, talk to everybody, sort of see how you're feeling today, like watch their form, make sure they're doing things in classes. Or my one-on-one clients, when there's dull times, you don't just want to be standing around and staring blankly at a wall. You start small conversations, or just easy things like, oh, like what did you do on the weekend, stuff like that. So there are some people skills, because you want people to connect with you as well, so they can come back, because that is your business. You want them to keep coming back. So I'd say that's probably the most important sort of soft skill.
Glad to know that these are skills that you can gain with practice over time.
Yeah.
So when you were still doing like competing in CrossFit and rugby, I'm sure it was pretty stressful and there was a lot of pressure. So how have you dealt with competing? Like how have you dealt with the challenges of competing at such a high level?
To be honest, when I was younger, you don't really think about it. When I was playing like BC level, you just kind of like, oh, I just go to practice, and then I kind of go to games, and like you're always nervous going into games. It's just, if you're not nervous, then you're not really loving what you do. You're just like, oh, it's another game, whatever. Then you probably won't be doing it for a long time. If you're feeling nervous getting ready for the game, you are enjoying what you're doing. Like it's kind of just managing the nerves of, like, especially when, let's just say your Saturday's your game day for rugby. Like I would probably wake up 8 a.m. and I had 5 hours until we were actually playing rugby, and it'd be an effort just to not get yourself hyped up so that you're tired before you even go into the game. So it's managing your nerves and the stress of just anticipating what you're going to do, and you can only control the result to a certain point. When it gets into CrossFit, it helped translate that skill that I had, all that experience playing, because when you're CrossFit, you're not actually you're competing against other people, but you're not like a head-to-head sport like rugby, or if you're doing wrestling or something like that. I can only move as fast as I can possibly move. So I have to have the understanding that these are my abilities. Don't go out too hard that you're going to blow up in 10 minutes when it's a 20-minute workout or something like that. Or don't worry about what other people are doing, because you have no control over what somebody else is doing. So it's managing that stress where you want to be competitive, but at the same time, you have to understand your own limitations.
I see. So they're quite different in that like one is a team sport and you're acting with a lot of people, and the other one is like your individual goals.
Yes.
Okay, I see. So can you talk a little bit about your experiences in CrossFit competitions, like what they're like and what you do in them, or specifically how you compete or what you do for the competitions?
So in general CrossFit competitions, either they're going to be like right now we're doing a lot of online stuff where maybe you're doing 1 or 2 workouts on a weekend for a few straight weeks. And then you kind of do the workout as best you can and you get somebody to judge you and record your scores. What we've done in the past when we were able to do live events, and we will eventually at some point be able to do live events. Normally what it would happen, you'd have, like, say, Friday through Sunday, and we would do maybe 6 workouts. And so through our training process, I train 5 days a week for about an hour and a half. And then so building up some volume so that when I get into a competition where, let's say, I do 1 workout in the morning and then do 1 workout in the afternoon, and I do that for 3 straight days, that my body is accustomed to doing that amount of sort of training volume or lifting and stuff like that. Where that differs a lot from sports where you're just playing 1, maybe 2 games a week sort of thing. And everything's sort of structured out. You've got your 2 practices, maybe 1 game, and that's all you're really doing. Where CrossFit's a lot more, you have event 1, 2, all the way through to 6, and let's see how well you recover over the weekend and continue performing as the weekend gets longer.
Yeah. I think it's cool to hear that like CrossFit is something that's like really individual. It's really like up to you on how you want to decide to do things. So I'm sure discipline is probably something that's a skill that's part of your work too.
Yep. Yeah, it's one of the things you kind of learn. So like I started in 2015, and when I got hooked onto it, I'm like, all right, I want to do more and I want to learn more. Like, how are they doing these gymnastic movements, which I've never done in my life? Like, I played field sports all my life, and then you're like, oh, okay. I watch people do ring muscle ups, and I'm like, I want to learn how to do that. And so you end up putting in a lot of time at the beginning. And what inevitably happens, and it happened to me, is I hurt my shoulder just because I wasn't listening to my body. I just wanted to do more and more and more. And so it took a few years to learn that, okay, I need to stay within my own abilities, and progress takes time. It's not like you start at step A and then suddenly you're at step Z. There's step B, C, D, and E, and all the way through for everything you're doing. So it's putting in the work for your hour and a half, and really that's what you do. And then you're like, okay, I don't need to do another 2 hours later tonight or something like that. So it's more just, again, understanding where you can push your body and when not to push your body in a lot of things. But that took years, to be honest, to learn. I had to test it out for myself to see what my body could handle. And then unfortunately, I did get to the point where I hurt myself, and it's about 6 months of not being able to do anything overhead with my shoulder. So yeah, I always try to warn people that get into the sport, like, you need to take your rest days and be smart with recovery and get lots of sleep and eat properly and stuff like that.
And that's super important. You sound very passionate and like very into what you do now. So how did you like come to realize that you were passionate about CrossFit like so much?
It probably happened when I was at work, and I would work out at 5 a.m. in the morning, just that's the way my schedule works. So I'd work at my desk job from 8 till 5. And then so I worked out at 5 a.m. in the morning. And what I found myself doing is, as I was watching YouTube videos on my computer of learning new things about CrossFit rather than wanting to actually do my work. Now, I obviously did do my work, or else I wouldn't have had my job, but it was always, okay, how can I finish my work faster so I can learn more about something about this CrossFit stuff? And that's probably when I really noticed I enjoy this a lot more than I enjoyed doing my job.
Yeah, it sounds great that like you're so motivated towards something that you love. So what gave you the courage to start over with a new career that's like so different?
That
Like to take
was,
that
yeah.
leap
So
and
it's funny because people ask me in the past, like, do you regret anything or whatever? And I don't regret any of the choices I made, other than one choice I made when I was 19 years old. I was longlisted for the Team Canada at the time, and my electrical schooling got in the way of going to one of their training camps. And I talked to one of my coaches about it, and he said, you should stop your electrical work. And at the time, the Canadian Training Center was at UVic. So they're like, you should go to UVic if you want to do something about this. And I decided not to. So I thought that, well, this is fine. Like, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And then it ended up, I actually tore my ACL later that year. So that kind of put a stop on the rugby dream, as I've had hamstring issues ever since then. But it's one of the things that when I was younger, I said, I was 18, 19 years old, I should have listened and gone and done what I wanted to do and follow my dream back then. So when this opportunity came up, I was 31, 32, something like that at the time. I'm like, well, if I don't do this now, then I will, 10 years from now, I'll probably look back and wish I had tried. So, I always have, the nice thing is I have my Red Seal journeyman ticket that they can't take away at any point. So I can always go back to my previous job if I have to. And so I always had that option to go back to something else if I needed to. But I figured while I'm in my early 30s, I should do something that I want to do and see if I can make a career out of it. And so far so good. I'm 2 years in and still loving it, able to pay the mortgage and buy groceries all the time. So far so good.
Yeah, I'm glad that worked out for you. So thank you so much, Eric. We loved hearing all the details about your career. I'm certain that our audience today also gained a lot of helpful insight and that will guide them along their own career path. So now let's move on to answering some questions that our students may have for you. So I'll pass it along to our moderator for today, Rachel, who will be relaying the questions from the chat.
Okay, thank you, Paula. And moving on to the Q&A portion. First question from Jennifer. Working in the trades can provide some job security and good salary. How do you manage the challenges of being self-employed?
So by self-employed, you mean like in the trade aspect or in the fitness aspect?
No, fitness aspect, yeah, as like your own business.
Oh, okay. The one thing about the trades that I learned is the work ethic. And I know a lot of times, especially when I was in the field, like when you're working, especially as like electrical, you don't actually see a lot of electrical things. Like you can see behind me, there's a light. That's really all you see for what we do. But there's a lot of things behind the scene that you need to make sure things are done properly, and they're built step by step by step. And so I feel like learning how the whole process works, I can relate that to doing another business. So it's not just, let's just say I wanted to open a gym. It's not just like, hey, let's open a gym and see what happens. No, you need a process. You need if you're going to own your own business, you need a business plan. You need to be like, okay, like this is what I first need. And then I need, am I going to get clients, and how am I going to do all these things? So there is a step-to-step process where those skills I can translate from a different job. And even from my desk job, I learned a lot how to speak with, like, in a more professional manner to corporate business and stuff like that, where it's not just, off the cuff. If you're talking to your friends, it's not the same sort of conversation, like how to write emails properly so you sound professional. All these skills sort of translated over to conversing with new people that want to come into the gym and sort of running the day-to-day operations and stuff like that. So
right, so even if these careers are different, these skills are transferable, and you can always, as long as you work hard, you can always have a different career.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the next question, with the impact of COVID on the fitness industry, how have you pivoted in your business?
So when we first reopened, I think it was June last year after the first lockdown that we had. So the way we're running things right now is that you have to have individualized spaces for the members of your gym. So if you go to a big gym like a Steve Nash or a Trevor Linden Fitness, they're like, okay, well, this piece of equipment's open, and then you have two more that are closed, and then one more that's open. So you have your 9 to 10 feet in between each other.
Right.
So the way our gym is, it's more, we don't really have machines per se. We just have like an open floor plan.
Right.
And so what we've had to do is now we used to have maybe 18-person sort of classes. Now we're only doing 12-person sessions. And with our current restrictions, we're not even allowed to run like group classes at the moment. So everybody sort of has their own 12-foot by 12-foot grid where they can go get their own equipment. And then we put up a workout on the board that if they want to do that, then they're able to do that. So it's been a bit of a challenge where we're primarily a group fitness facility, but now we've had to change things over the past year as all these sort of restrictions, and everybody is in and out of the gym. Like you have your hour now. It's like, okay, 50 minutes, and then you have to be out because everything needs to be sanitized and cleaned. And where before it was like, okay, if you're a sweaty person, then yes, let's mop up our squares and let's clean up our equipment. But before we didn't need to worry too much about those issues.
Right.
So if anything, I'm cleaning probably 3 times as much as I ever have before every single hour. So
Yeah, definitely. Must be hard with all these new protocols that are in place. And just to add on to that, if I wanted to see you for a training session or CrossFit, do you have a website, or could I request you if I call the gym directly?
Yep. So what happens if you want to go to semiamuathletic.club.com? There is a contact information. And what happens is I do the vast majority of we call it an initial assessment. So if you want to come into the gym, we have a free sort of 45-minute assessment where we'll sit down, sort of see what your goals are, if this is the right sort of training environment of what you want to do, or we have the group sessions, or you can do personal one-on-one training. And obviously there's different price ranges of that. That's sort of something you could come in and we can arrange in a time that works. And I do the vast majority of those assessments here at the gym.
Right.
And then sometimes one of the owners do them as well.
Mhm.
So.
Yep. So that's semiamuathletics.com.
Semiamuathletic.club.com. Yes.
Club.com. Yep. And a question from Paula. Did you have a mentor? And if so, how has your mentor impacted you? And this is for both of your careers.
So for my electrical career, probably my mentor is, so I reported directly to the branch manager of the company I worked for. And a lot of times it was more, the first one I had was an estimator before me. And so there was a lot of times if I had questions of anything I wanted, or like, how do you do this? Or like, this doesn't quite make sense. Like his office was 2 offices over from mine. So it was really easy to go over and talk to him. And then he would come into whenever we were closing jobs, he would come in and we would sort of have that relationship of like, oh, okay, like this is how I did this takeoff, or this is how much this is costing according to the way I did this. And so from me and my branch manager, we had a pretty close relationship because he has to be able to trust me as well, that I have taken off everything accordingly, that we're not going to miss anything.
Right.
So I learned a lot I had 2 different branch managers over the years, but I definitely learned a lot from them. And then from the CrossFit side, one of the owners here, Joe Scally, I've been working with him quite a bit for the past 2 years. And so he's sort of taken me under his wing, taught me how to do the personal training side of things, and like how to create programs for people, and working, like if I have questions like, hey, this person's trying to get their first pull up, but none of the drills that we normally do are working. Like, do we have any ideas? And so he's always been available to help me out with those sort of things.
Right.
So
for the trades, would you say that it's similar to an apprenticeship?
Yeah, either point. Like I know my apprenticeship in itself, it was in a little bit of a weird time. Like I have probably had my foreman that was sort of our mentor for all of us. But at the time, we were on a company that didn't have a lot of journeymen. Just at the time there was a high demand of journeymen, and there was probably 1 or 2 journeymen on our site and about 8 apprentices at the time. And so our foreman basically turned into, which is his job, is like our mentor, teaching us how to do all these things. But we also had to learn very quickly on our own at that time. So I do not recommend that as much as possible, because we did make a lot of mistakes that are avoidable if you have proper supervision from journeymen and stuff like that. But I took those things that I learned when I was a journeyman for training other people, like make sure here's what we have to do. And then you let somebody learn from their own mistakes, like hopefully not big mistakes that they're going to blow up anything or anything, but go in and check what they're doing to make sure that they're like, oh, like you did this, but it should actually be like this way is more efficient the next time.
Right.
And so from the trade side, it was, you always sort of have somebody that should be looking over you until you make it to that sort of journeyman foreman level, and then
Right.
you're the mentor for the apprentices.
Yep, just to make sure that everything goes well.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
And next question, did you always have support in your career from your friends and family? And if not, is that something you've had to overcome, and how?
No, I've always had support from my family. My family has always been very good of like, whatever you want to do, we'll support you. And then they were very surprised, I will admit, when I said I'm gonna quit my job of 13 years and go into the fitness industry.
Yep.
But at the same time, they're like, that's awesome, you're doing what you want to do. Like, if we can help, let us know. So I've always had a lot of support from my family, which I am very thankful for.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's so great that your family supports you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how is your work-life balance in terms of your family life?
So I've found a pretty good, I feel like, a balance now. I do have 2 kids. They're 4 and 2 years old. I got 2 boys. And so thankfully, in my position as the head coach, I make the schedule for who coaches what classes. And so I end up working 4 mornings out of the week. So I basically work 5 a.m. to 1 p.m. 4 days out of the week. And then I work an afternoon, evening on Wednesdays. And then I also do, and then the Saturday mornings. So I'm at the gym early in the mornings. And then in the afternoons, I'm basically done about 2, 3 o'clock after I work out. And then I go home and spend time with my family, when that also gives my wife a break so she can come to the gym and work out. And so I try to keep that schedule as much as possible, since I want to be in my kids' life and I enjoy spending time with them. So I don't want to be that work 12 hours a day and never see your family type person. So, but I'm also in the position where I make the schedule, so I have the ability to do that.
Right.
So.
And would you say that your career is good for like a work-life balance if someone wants to be more involved in their families?
It definitely can be. It's when you're starting, it's always one of those things. It takes time to build up like your clientele for, like, it took a while. Now I have very consistent clientele that come Monday, Wednesday, Friday mornings, or Tuesday, Thursday mornings, so that they're all there. But when I first started, there's always going to be that year, 2 years where I'm at the gym from 5 to 8. I have 2 hours off. Then I'm in for noon, and then I'm out, and then I'm back for 6, 7, and 8, because I still need to work 8 to 10 hours a day or whatever it is so I can pay my bills. But there is a point where you will get to the point where you have enough clientele that you can organize, or maybe hire other people to do, like, if you don't want to do the evenings, you can hire people to do the evening work, and then you're doing morning stuff. And so it is one, just like every job, you kind of have to put your time in before you get to that comfort level, but you can get there. It is possible.
Definitely important to work hard in the beginning, especially.
Yeah.
And this is a question from Mr. Day's class. What are the most common misconceptions in the media about your career?
About the what, sorry?
About your career. What are the most common misconceptions in the media about your career?
So for the fitness career, misconceptions. I'll speak about CrossFit more in particular, since that's a little bit easier.
Yep.
In the media, when people see sort of CrossFit stuff, they see these people that are super fit, that can do like anything from handstand walking to they're doing Olympic lifting, they're doing all these extra things, and they're the fittest people you've ever seen. They're the top 0.1% out of the people you see like that do CrossFit.
Yep.
And so I'll probably say from that side of things, most people are your average mom or dad, or we got people that are 20 years old, we got people that are 60 years old coming into the gym, and all they want to do is either lose a little bit of weight, or they want to push back the inevitable aging process as long as possible and be healthy. Like, I know one of my clients is I think he turned 60 years old this year. And he's at the point, he's like, I just want to be able to go for a walk like every afternoon, so I can go up and down the hills in White Rock without feeling like I'm going to keel over and have a heart attack every single day. And so a lot of the people we work with are not from, like, especially the CrossFit side, are not what you see on social media or what you see in the news, if you see them on the news. So most of the people are your everyday people that you're just like, oh, okay, like, awesome. You go in, you work out for an hour, and you're fitter, you look healthy, and that's the vast majority of people we work with.
Yeah. Right. It's interesting to hear how your clients are all more focused on the health aspects and less on like what the media is all about, all the physical appearances.
Yeah, there obviously is. Like, I know myself, I like the competitive side. Like, I have that competitive drive in me.
Yeah.
And so it's just like any other sport, though, when you consider it, like, you have a chance of getting hurt when you're just going to do it as a sport because you're trying to be competitive and push
Right.
boundaries. So that's something, especially with the more younger people in the gym, they enjoy the sport aspect of it, that we try to rein them in a little bit, if you will. Whereas
Yeah.
I'd say the majority of people are just, they just want to be healthy and be able to pick up their kids without bending over or having difficulty walking up the stairs, and or people that are older that want to pick up their grandkids one day without having any issues, that sort of thing.
Yep. Great reminder for all of our students to start taking care of yourself early.
Yes.
Yep. And a question from Mr. Fasse, just out of curiosity, what is your PR on the bench press?
Ooh, bench press is a rough one for me. My bench press PR is probably about 235 pounds, which relative to my other strengths is not very high. I can squat over 400 pounds and I can clean and jerk over 300 pounds. But I will be the first to admit, when I'm CrossFit stuff, we don't do a lot of bench pressing. I should do more because it's a very useful, but we do a lot more sort of Olympic lifting type movements, or like power, like other than the bench press, obviously, as I said. But so I have a lot of other strengths. Bench pressing is not one of them, unfortunately. Yet relative to my other strength, it's not a strength. So
bench press, not a strong suit.
No, but not compared to the rest of my skills.
Yeah. And just jumping to a different topic, what was your favorite course in high school? I know that you went to semi. Did any courses impact your career choice, both an electrician and a fitness trainer?
My favorite course, to be honest, was probably geography. I love geography. Like, even when my wife and I started dating, we would go on hikes almost like throughout the summer, every weekend. I just loved being out there and just in nature, and in sort of seeing how things were put together, or like understanding, like, yes, we live in a tectonic area, and like, how does this all work? Like, I like seeing, like, I don't know. I just found geography to be really enjoyable. Maybe it was just the teacher I had that made it the most enjoyable, but I was always good at math, and physics has been the best sort of translate over to electrical work.
Yep.
But like, I'm good at numbers, but I probably enjoyed geography the most.
Right. So you were always good at math and physics, all those things that are related to the career that you chose, but
Yes.
you didn't necessarily enjoy them the most?
Yeah. Yeah, math and physics was always one of those things where I felt like I had to get an A in.
Right.
Where it was one of those where I could, if I worked hard enough, but I actually enjoyed doing the geography stuff more. So, but don't skip on your math and physics. Numbers are really important for everyday life.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for students who are unsure of what profession that they want to pursue?
Depending on what you want to do, like, I know, like, people say trades are for everybody. That's not necessarily true. You have to enjoy working with your hands. Like, I found trades to be a great place to start if you don't really know kind of what you want to do, because you will make money when you first get into it. So like, the way like an apprenticeship works is that you work for 6 months and you get a little bit of a raise. And like, this is from the union side of things. And like, for every 6 months you were getting a raise, and every year you went to school for, I think it was 12 weeks. Yeah, 12 weeks. For 4 years you did this. And so if you're not really sure what to do, but you have the skills to do it, like, there's always sort of a place for you in the trades if you would like to do that. And it was a good way to make money earlier in life. And I don't know, yeah, it's one thing though, because I came from that trade background, I never went to university. I almost would feel like I wanted to go to university just to sort of experience university at the time. But I feel like for myself personally, I would have just been wasting money because I didn't know what I wanted to do anyways. So I didn't know I wanted to do electrical or anything like that. It's just that happened to be, I got a job offer coming out of high school. And I wasn't planning on going to university. I was going to be like, oh, I'll just take a year off and then see where I am.
Yeah. So trades is always a stable career if you're not unsure of what you want to do.
Yeah. And it's one of those things. I knew a lot of people that did it for a couple years and then they realized that they didn't enjoy it. And then hopefully they had a direction of going back to school. But if you started at 18, 19 years old, you're still in your early 20s, you got lots of time to go back to school if you want to.
Yep.
And hopefully you have a little bit of pocket money at that time too to help pay for tuition and things like that.
Yep, so it's definitely never too late to change your career paths.
Yeah.
And last question. Taking a year off is never, oh, my bad. Did you always have support in your career choice from your, I have already gone to that question. And from Miss Spencer's class, is there anything that you wish you knew about your profession while you were still in high school?
Oh, I wish I had worked out as a teenager. I was never the gym person growing up. I was thankfully blessed with a lot of athletic ability, but I was also 5'10" and 160 pounds coming out of high school. So I wish I had understood about the importance of working out instead of just practices twice a week and then playing games on the weekend. So I got away with it when I was a teenager. I was faster than everybody else and nobody could really catch me, or I was able to like read plays better than people. But once you start playing adult sports, you're now an 18-year-old at 160, 170 pounds playing against men that are 25 in their prime at 240 pounds. And guess what? They can run just as fast as you. And unfortunately, that I ended up getting a lot of injuries playing men's rugby. I've torn both ACLs. I've had many concussions. And it's just, I wish when I was younger, I had put the effort in the gym. If I had even been 180, 185 pounds from being in the gym and had muscle on me, I would have survived and been a much better athlete than I was back then.
Right.
And so I wish I had understood those things, but as best I can, we have a lot of like hockey kids that come in here and train in the afternoons. We're trying to instill on them that this is important if you want to progress your athletic career. Everybody these days is working out at a teenage age because that's prime growing years, and learning how your body works and putting on some muscle mass, and it can only help you as you get older.
Yep.
So that's probably the one thing I wish I had known about fitness in general rather than just playing sports.
Yep. So start working out early and taking care of your body.
Yeah. Eating enough food is also important. I wasn't that person that ate tons. I was like, okay, I have a sandwich and maybe have an orange for lunch, and then I did 3 hours of sports after every day of school. It's not the healthiest choice, and it didn't help for putting on any muscle or anything. So eat lots of food.
Right. On that topic, do you think it's important to like talk to a dietitian if you're just starting to work out?
Yeah, not in the specific sense of dietitian, unless you're specifically trying to lose weight, more like a nutrition specialist who kind of works with the wide range of athletes or people losing weight because they have the experience of working with a whole bunch of different clientele. It definitely can help if you are somebody that's looking to go into a sport seriously. If you're trying to make that next level of whatever it is, your nutrition, your sleep, every little edge you can get will help you over the next person that's not doing these things.
Right.
So every little thing you can do obviously will help you more in the long run.
Yep. So fitness is really about like the overall holistic health.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. So I think that is the end of our session, our Q&A session.
Awesome.
Yep. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Now that our session has come to an end, I would like to thank our speaker, Eric, Mr. Sugawara, once again for taking the time to join us today. And thank you. I'm sure many of us were inspired by your stories and experiences. It's so amazing that you're following your passion now. I hope that our students have gained insight in your career and the importance of doing what you love. And
awesome. I hope they have to.
Thank you. And just a reminder for anyone who is looking for training sessions, you can always visit the website. If you enjoyed this event, please check out our Instagram, EPS Stuco and EPS_PLC_ for more events in the future. And lastly, a big thank you to everyone who joined us today. We hope you learned more about your interests, and to all of our teachers and volunteers who made this possible. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And I think that's it for this session. You're free to log out now. Have a nice day.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.